Thokozani bogogo nabamkhulu. I'm Gogo Lerato. I'm Gogo Kandalembube, and I've been promising to start my series. I'm a little under the weather. For those who've been wanting to book their readings, listen, give me a few more days. I must get myself together, right? But I thought it's important to release the first class. Hopefully, we're going to have a discussion about that on Saturday. All right, and as the title goes, the African wound, the true African wound. So, at the heart of our spiritual being, our spiritual wound, at the heart of our wound as Africans, is that whenever we're confronted with the question of whether we venerate or worship our ancestors, we subliminally cave into an entire explanation about how we only honor them. And we still speak about, our belief in God, and then proceed to trail off into we just honor them, but we don't worship them. And that is at the heart of our identity wound, right? Because monotheism, the belief in one God, from an esoteric point of view, even from a practical point of view, is irrelevant. It is actually redundant. The personification of a God, whether we differentiate that God into a triune or multi-une, polyune entity, the point is that entity comes back having a masculine identity, and B, having a son or a manifestation of itself, being a son or a prophet. This is in all monotheistic religions. There is somebody who's got the right of key to this one God, be it a Jesus or a Prophet Muhammad, may so rest in peace. At the heart, that's the manifestation, that's the evolution of this God. And then to follow that would now be the spirit version, right? Which must be preceded by the physical manifestation, the Jesus, the Prophet Muhammad. And only the Holy Spirit follows after that. Now, here's the thing. The moment you want to personify a spirit entity, a divine being, a consciousness, the reason why we want to do that is so that we have our own sense of self-righteousness. And I spoke about this when I did an introduction, that self-righteousness is good because it gives you the belief that you are unlimited, right? So self-righteousness, in a way, plays itself out as you becoming your own monotheism. That's what self-righteousness is. It is just backed up by historic books that have been twisted to imply certain things, right? We back up our self-righteousness through many different texts. And why is that important to us as Africans, to have this self-righteousness backed up? Because we want to create an Akashic and unlimited consciousness that cares solely for you. We want to create a scenario in our own lives where the things that have happened in our lives, good and bad, right, are subject to like a presentation to this supreme being, where we state our case in the hopes that this supreme being will now see us as self-righteous over the next person, right? That is the only reason why we need a one God. That is the only reason why we create a one God. So that this God in our delusion is meant to care so much about our individual, unique, quote unquote, negative experiences, that this God now turns around and exercises punishment. Why? It is at the heart of self-righteousness that we need to have a God who's got a personification, who's got an identity. Because we don't know how to create from our own identity as the true manifestation of, let's say, the monotheistic entity. We don't feel that we have the right to. We've been taught that we're not allowed to. And that actually, if you're not righteous, then you're a sinner. The whole ideology behind a one God is to create a saint and a sinner complex dynamic. That's it. Is it practical? No. How do we know it's not practical? The same one God, the same monotheistic consciousness has never ever demonstrated itself as being only human, and has never ever demonstrated or identified itself under the human guise of a particular being. To this day. Yes, we can speak about Jesus, and that's going to come in following classes. But our core wound as Africans is that when we think about how heavily oppressed our ancestors were, subconsciously, we don't believe that they have the power to act as a God complex or to act as a God figure. And this is a subliminal wound where even we believe that our forefathers were oppressed due to their lack of intelligence. Right? And where do we see this? We see both Africans and people all around the world speak of oppression, speak of the book of the oppressor, but continue, right, to send the same oppression forward in their own families, in their own work environments, in their own bloodlines. They continue to do that. So, on the one hand, we want to continue with the lessons of what we feel we are justified in being angry about, the oppression. But on the other hand, we don't even yet want to have the conversation with the consciousness behind this perceived oppression. We want to now invoke a conversation with descendants of the oppressor. And even at a subliminal place in our workplaces, in our lives, we see white people, right, as the oppressor. However, we have never made time to question their one God privately. Who are you? We've never made the time to do that. Why? Because we want so much for that God to validate and care for us. And the reality is that no monotheistic entity cares, right? No monotheistic entity cares. I'm going to park it here and I'm going to continue with the next video.